Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of The Wrench in the Machine. I am Mehak Bhatia, your Technology Landscape Analyst, and today we will be diving into the topic of overcoming digital transformation hurdles in manufacturing. I am joined by Dipankar Ghosh, CEO of Digituo, an industrial IoT startup with extensive experience in manufacturing. Together, we'll explore the common challenges that manufacturers face when implementing digital technologies, such as cost, talent shortage, and security concern, and share the best practices to overcome these hurdles. We'll also discuss what kind of roadmap and planning should be done to ensure a successful digital transformation journey. Let's get started. Thank you, Dipankar. Let's start.
Hi, Mehak. Nice to be back again. How are you doing?
I am fantastic, Dipankar, and we are so pleased to have you.
Same here, likewise. So let's dive right into it.
Sure, sir. One of the biggest hurdles that manufacturers face with digital transformation is the high cost. So, Dipankar, from your experience, what are the primary cost related challenges and how can manufacturers overcome them?
Well, cost is definitely a very, very important factor. Uh, when you uh, implement digital transformation and digital technologies, which will lead to digital transformation, then you have to invest in hardware, you have to invest in software, you have to train your people, upgrade their skills, or maybe hire people from outside with new skills, or even hire consultants. So it is actually not a low cost affair. However, when we talk about cost, it means that it is an expense and it is going down the drain. Let me explain that this is not really so because this is actually an investment. Now, because of this high initial investment costs, or rather, the cost is a misnomer there. Because of the high initial investment requirement, companies normally face a challenge of whether to invest or not. And this is always a question mark because companies have other things to also spend money on. That being the case, we always say that this has a solution in terms of taking a phased approach. You can always start with small pilot projects by ensuring that you have done your homework in terms of what you want to obtain from those projects, specifically the ROI or the return on investment, and have some very quick wins so that you can show value quickly to yourself and to your superiors to gain more credibility and confidence so that further investments can take place. And there are umpteen ways this can be done. For instance, you can what we actually do from the examples. I wanted to put some examples from what DG2 does in terms of advising. We have a seven-step uh, IoT deployment strategy or methodology, and this can be actually this can be used across all types of digital transformation technologies that you want to implement. Firstly, you understand your needs. You understand where are the few specific areas or low hanging fruits where you can start your pilot and to so that you can quickly prove the value of the work that you're doing and demonstrate ROI. Then you understand what infrastructure at the moment you have, like assessing your infrastructure in terms of data sources, sensors, devices. Based on this, you plan a roadmap in terms of what is the success criteria you want to achieve, what kind of timeline you want to do the project in and what kind of resources you need. Then build the prototype for that small project. Basically, you integrate data sources, sensors, etc., devices in the case of IoT. Then run the pilot. After building the prototype, run the pilot for a few months and keep measuring it. Collect data and see whether you're getting benefited from it. Once you know that you're getting benefit from it, you demonstrate this benefit to your management, to yourself, to your team, whoever is responsible for taking up the job on a full scale basis. So, based on these learnings, then you can move on to other small projects or even have a grand strategy where, even if you have a grand strategy, which comes right from the top level, which includes all your plants, all your departments, I would still suggest that you use the small project approach, gradually integrating everything, and then so that you are more likely to be successful.
That makes sense, and it was a fantastic insight about Digito's personal methodologies. But
Yeah, so I would suggest that you start small, you scale smartly, and definitely watch your savings grow. When I say savings grow, we expect your ROI to come, and therefore you can see your savings grow.
fantastic, Dipankar. But even with a phased approach, there are doubts about the return on investment. That how can manufacturers be assured that their investment in digital transformation will pay off?
Yes. Now there is always an element of uncertainty, no doubt about it. However, yeah. However, what you can do is to focus on measurable wins. So when you select the pilot project that I was talking about, you do your homework well in terms of what objectives you are trying to achieve and whether if those objectives if they are achieved, what kind of returns will be received by you as a company. Now, the returns can obviously the first thing that you talk about is money, but there could be other intangible returns as well, right? So, for instance, we have done several such projects for manufacturing and mining companies. And let me tell you, I'm not really sure how many of these companies, when they commissioned those projects, really thought about what the ROI would be. They did it based on the fact that they had a problem to solve, or perhaps do some innovative work and see where it goes. Maybe they had some budget and therefore they put the money in for to see where it goes. However, in hindsight, I can say that for each of these projects, it was very easy to plan for the ROI as to what you can expect to happen. For instance, in a large mining company where we help them, to capture data of their payload monitoring system in their dumpers and to send the data directly on a real-time basis to their servers, it was very easy to understand what kind of savings and what kind of benefit that this particular thing would, activity or this technology would bring them. For instance, they have hundreds of such dumpers. Now, to download those data and monitor them, post downloading, you had to actually send somebody to those trucks in the field and connect your laptop and then download the data, and then you could monitor and you could actually analyze the data. You could not monitor because it is a historical data, so monitoring was out of question, and therefore you could definitely analyze it. But when we provided this solution, what happened? The requirement of people going to the dumpers and physically taking down and that is a cost to you, right? And physically downloading the data and analyzing that part of the process completely disappeared. Similarly, the fact that they were not monitoring on a real time basis was also analyzing post the event. They could not do anything to rectify the problem if there was one at the time when the problem was occurring. So these kind of when you look at and analyze these kind of things that can happen, then it's very easy also, not very difficult to find the cost savings and the return on the investment for these kind of things. So the idea here is that you can with using these kind of technologies, you can have data driven decisions and monitor and analyze performance so that you can easily showcase what kind of cost savings and efficiency gains that you're getting from your pilot projects if you are starting as a pilot. So my thing is that yes, my opinion is that yes, uh, n- there is always a doubt in the beginning as to what would be the return on investment. But again, if you monitor and analyze the performance of your solution, you can let the numbers do the talking. And ROI is then not a gamble when you really measure your output.
Understood, Dipankar. Those are some compelling points. But speaking of scalability, another challenge is the talent shortage in the industry. Finding skilled professionals to manage and implement these technologies can be tough. How do you think that manufacturers can address this issue?
Yes, this is a very important, you know, factor in when you are planning for your digital transformation journey. Uh, the entire thing, almost the entire thing, is very much knowledge and skill based, which essentially means that uh, people have to be trained. So uh, much of this technology is new, and people in manufacturing have normally have a long experience, uh, which could be 20, 25, 30 years long even. And they may be actually working on machines and technologies which are of long past, uh, quite ancient. However, they are not discarding them because of obvious reasons, financial reasons. So now, when you have people who have been always used to working in those kind of environment and technologies, you have a requirement to bring in either fresh blood in terms of new knowledge and new skills, or you have to upskill the team that you have. So it's very important for organizations to invest in continuous learning and development programs for their existing employees. And there are other ways also to accelerate this process in terms of gaining more knowledge and skills in this direction. For instance, you can collaborate with educational institutions to access fresh talents by providing internships and apprenticeships. I think this is something that we discussed in our previous week's program on innovation.
Yes.
Uh, right. So that, and also another way of accelerated skilling could be to partner with digital transformation specialists. There are people who are specialized in this area. They perhaps run small companies, startups. However, they are knowledgeable in this area. So why not shake hands with them and using their using a collaborative approach with them, bridge the skill gap and develop the necessary skills efficiently, so that you have a smoother digital transition. So these are some of the things that one can do in order to bridge the skill gap. So I would suggest that in order to sort of survive and thrive in this challenge, you should invest in growing your talent and then fostering partnerships, whether with the educational institutions or with you know companies and especially who specializes in these areas, and then turn these challenges into new opportunities. Because I feel, I strongly feel, and I think it's true that if you are not doing this, somebody else is doing it. So will you let that somebody else to, take the opportunities which you are going to miss because you are not doing it? And if you flip the coin, if you do it and you stay ahead, several steps ahead from your competitions who are not doing it, then you see, where you can grow, in terms of your business. Make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is insightful, Dipankar. Training and development certainly plays a crucial role. Investing in training and fostering partnerships with educational institutions can certainly create a sustainable talent pipeline.
Right, right.
Exactly. But as they say, that we must fear what lies within the unknowns. So, in that matter, with new technology comes new risk, particularly in terms of security. So, what are the common security concerns that manufacturers may face during digital transformation? And what, according to you, are strategies that they can implement to mitigate these risks?
Mehak, that's a very important point that you're bringing up. Cybersecurity or security of has been always a major issue in information technology and computer science. And these new digital technologies, such as robotics or industrial IoT or say AI, even AI can do funny things with all those intelligent models if you feed it with funny data, right? So yeah, and I think we should do another uh, episode on cybersecurity itself, perhaps, where you know I have a special interest in this area, and there have umpteen number of very interesting examples of how systems have been hacked, and some of them are quite funny, and at the same time they are not funny also, right? But the threats are quite genuine. So now what do you do? Just because there are threats, would you want to not progress? That cannot be the case, right? So, just as with any other new technology where there will be always security threats, these digital technologies also have, you can address them with very similar approaches that you have used earlier on your, say, for your ERP system or your CRM system or any other, enterprise system that you have used. So, you know, some of the things that can happen there in those kind of legacy kind of an IT system can also happen in these kind of IT OT system, as we said. The IT OT means operations technology. So, like cyber attacks, data breaches, and operational disruptions. All of these challenges are common across the board. So, anything that you have done earlier, learned about in terms of securing your network, securing your application, securing your databases, encrypting your data, ensuring that your firewalls are being uh, hardened well, the servers are hardened well, and very importantly, your people are trained well in terms of how to avoid, security breaches. It has been seen that it is the people who have the major role, either innocently or inadvertently or deliberately, in ensuring that there is a security breach. So that aspect also has to be taken care of in terms of training and control and monitoring. So you have to have firewalls, you have to have encryption, as I was talking about. Then You must have also security audits. One of the things, and then develop a comprehensive strategy on how you will handle security in jail for the entire company. And this is a big thing. This itself is a big investment, let me tell you. Uh, However, you can always again start small. You specifically speaking with regard to such, cyber physical networks, where which deal with industrial IoT, robotics, etc. You have to ensure that right at the beginning, at the design stage itself, you ensure that every aspect of security has been taken care of, and not build security later once you have the solution out in the market or out in the shop floor. So that's another important factor. And this itself is a very specialized science and requires a separate discussion by itself, perhaps from a security expert. But I would end this uh, discussion regarding cybersecurity by saying that you must stay secure, you must stay smart, and in only in this way you can protect your digital future.
Absolutely. Se- Cybersecurity is critical and it can significantly strengthen a manufacturer's defense against potential threats. Uh, but
Right.
but here comes another point of hesitation for many manufacturers. It is the fear of taking risk associated with digital transformation. How can they overcome this fear?
Yes. Again, where does this fear come from? The fear comes from the fact that one has been generally running a traditional business, and they have been become used to doing things in a certain way, and also have become risk averse because of the environment that they have been trained to work in over the years. So whenever something new has to be done, whenever some changes have to be brought about, and let me tell you, digital transformation, even when done in phased manner and in a very controlled phases, even then the end result can be quite disruptive in terms of changes. And we have seen so many talks about, people no longer being needed in a company because uh, that kind of job is no longer required, or that those kind of skills are obsolete, or maybe processes are getting eliminated, and hence you do not really need people. So all of these things, whenever such things happen, things like digital transformation, which can be very disruptive, there is obviously a natural human tendency to avoid these, because these are likely to bring a great upheaval in their lives, whether whether their personal lives or in their professional lives. So that's quite understandable. But will you not progress just because you have an hesitation? The trouble is that if you do not progress, you will not have a business in the future. There will be others who will take your business and eat your lunch, right? So
Right.
there has to be a method to this, to this process of bringing about this change. So first of all, from a strategy point of view, you must develop a clear roadmap so that you can outline your digital transformation journey very well as to what, say, in the next 5 years' time, or next 3 years' time, or next 10 years' time, where do you want your company to be? It has to be aligned with the overall company strategy and objectives as well. Let's try and understand. A business is an entity which is trying to make profits. So that is its primary goal. Now, but digital transformation is only a means of making those profits, right? Now, that being the case, your digital transformation, whatever you do, has to match with the kind of financial goals or other kinds of goals that you may have in your 3 year period or 5 year period or 10 year period. So that kind of high level, top level view has to be taken as to in order to create the roadmap for your digital transformation journey. You should also include risk assessments, and if there are risks that you find, which you will definitely find, you must also have mitigation strategies for them to address those risks. Therefore, we have to start with, as I said, a strategic roadmap so that you know where you want to go, why you want to go, and how will you go. Right now, the next step is to embrace innovation. We spoke about innovation at depth and at length in our last podcast last week. Uh, So I will repeat what I said there. You have to cultivate a culture that embraces innovation. You have to view failures as learning opportunities and not you know put people on a dock just because they have failed. You have to encourage experimentation and always keep testing new ideas with minimal risk, of course, as you proceed. Then, of course, you must celebrate your successes, and you must reward your people who have taken risks, even if they have failed. You must definitely reward people who have, uh, succeeded in their projects, in their work towards this journey, and also analyze your failures. You know, just failures is a stone to success, no doubt, but the success can come only when you have analyzed your failures, why you have failed, so that you can take the necessary steps to earn the success in the next step. Right. And you must also foster an environment of continuous improvement, continuous learning. And then you will see that these kind of hesitation in terms of taking risks, being, having the fear of the unknown, all of this will go away. So I would suggest that you must embrace risk. You must innovate boldly. Boldly is the important, the key word there. And then turn your fear into your stepping stone to success that I was talking about.
Those are great strategies, and celebrating small wins can indeed build the necessary momentum for a broader transformation.
Right, right, absolutely.
And here I would like to mention that if anybody from our listeners want to learn more about the innovation culture can tune into our first episode. Now, coming on to the second part of this podcast,
Right. Normally, such assessments are uh, quite well codified in other domains. And let me tell you, uh, this kind of roadmaps that I'll be talking about is not much different from those kind of roadmaps that you have used in other domains. So first of all, you have to lay the groundwork, which essentially means that you have to understand what is your current state. You have to thoroughly evaluate your organization's current capabilities and competences, and also understand where you excel and where you have a lot of rooms for improvement. This kind of assessment will serve as a foundation for your transformation roadmap. Right. I'll I'll talk about specifically something that uh, we tell our clients later, but I'm giving you a high level view at the moment. So then next you establish your objectives and goals. Do a goal setting exercise. It would be a 3 year goal, 5 year goal, 10 year goal, as I was talking about. But 10 year goal is too far off, but at some stage it needs to be done. But at least your near term goals. or medium term goals. So you must uh, establish clear, achievable goals and milestones for your digital transformation journey. And and it could be short term, as I was saying, short term could be a few months, medium term could be maybe 1.5 to 3 years, and long term could be 5 to 10 years. Right. So you have to do those kind of goal setting. Then you have to see, in order to reach those goals, what kind of digital technologies you need to use in the different parts of your business. It could be in the technical part of your business, where you, on the shop floor, for instance, it is entirely on maintenance or production, supply chain. That's the technical part of the business. Whereas you may need, and you definitely would need, to do some goal settings for your business side of the business. Things like, you know, mm, HR, training, talent acquisition, or things like your finance and accounts. All of these, you know, uh, are very important in terms of achieving the goals of the organization. So everywhere goes. So what we are trying to suggest here is that do not think digital transformation for a manufacturing company is only IoT and robotics and it's only shop floor. People also need to think of other functions which are also contribute to the growth of the business. And there also, information technology and digital transformation is a requirement. Based on this, you develop a roadmap that outlines each step of your transformation process. And then you should specify budgets, timelines, how will you allocate resources for each of these initiatives so that efficient execution happens. Now, all of this will also require a kind of a collaborative environment. You cannot do this in isolation. So, it has to be driven from the top, and every stakeholder has to be engaged in this activity. So, right from the boardroom to the frontline workers, there has to be an engagement. So, while you can have your 32,000 feet road map at the top, gradually you should drill them down to the specific activities and improvements that needs to be done across each level down to the frontline worker, so that everyone is ensured to be aligned with the goals, which is contributing to the objectives of the organization. So, mm, to tell briefly, is that you have to plan meticulously and execute brilliantly, and then your roadmap to success really awaits you. Now, I was talking about what we suggest to our uh, clients. There is a thing that we do for our clients is an industry 4.0 status assessment, as to how ready you are in terms of being, uh, in the journey of industry 4.0. So, although we are talking about digital transformation, I'm giving an example of industry 4.0, but it's very similar. And note that Industry 4.0 is actually a large part of the digital transformation journey. So we say that there are 5 levels in Industry 4.0 in terms of readiness. The first level is digitalize, which essentially means that you gather, move, and store data if you do not do it already. The second step is view, which essentially is that the data that you have gathered, moved, and stored, you see that data in visual format, in some kind of a visual format, and that format that is easily available to you, so that you do not have to rummage through things to see it, because that really, you know, takes away the benefit of what you're trying to do. If you cannot see the data at the time that you want to see it, then it's of no use. So next step is view. Third step we say is know, have knowledge, which means that, okay, you're seeing the data, but are you able to make any meaning from the data? So that analytics has to be built in into the data in order to create knowledge and create meaning from the data. If you know what the data means, then you can actually take actions. Am I right? Then,
Absolutely.
right. Then the fourth step is foresee or predict. So even using that data and using those analyses, you can also get an idea of what could happen, sometimes very accurately. And that is what predictive analytics and AI in predictive AI is all about. And lastly, this is the highest class or highest state that you can be in Industry 4.0 is to become independent. So every system becomes self-regulating and makes independent decisions without any intervention from, manual intervention, without any involvement of the, people around. So a system itself will know that, okay, this is going bad, therefore let me do this so that it becomes good again. I'm talking at a very, generic level. So that is what an independent or an autonomous, there's another word called autonomous system is all about. So this is the kind of status assessment that needs to be done by an organization in order to understand where they lie. Some departments may be in step one, readiness level one, and some departments may be at readiness level four, which is 4C. And very rarely we will find any departments who are independent or autonomous, which is the final level. But knowing this and having an assessment of this would really help.
Those are excellent points and a very practical advice. Now, Dipankar, we would like you to share a couple of successful case studies in area of digital transformation in manufacturing.
Great, Mehak. Look, I'll give you two success stories that we personally had. There was uh, the first story I'm going to tell about is a large auto parts manufacturer, and the challenge was to streamline test vehicle data collection. A test vehicle would run throughout the country and gather data from the particular uh, system or subsystem that they were manufacturing for the automobile, and data such as temperature, pressure, uh, you know, there were motors, and therefore, what was the motor voltage, what was the motor current, and things like that. So that kind of test data had to be streamlined and automated and made available real time. Now, which was being done manually earlier. So we implemented a IoT sensor based solution with a gateway device using mobile networks to give real time data for all of these parameters that I was talking about directly on to the desk of the monitoring person or the person who was analyzing it, the analyzing engineer. So what benefit did it bring about? It reduced the test engineer's workload by about 40% or perhaps more. The test engineer was no longer required to drive with the car to monitor the data sitting in the car. They could actually do it from the comfort of their offices, and therefore they were available to do other tasks as well. And this achieved significant cost savings, perhaps maybe $10,000, $12,000 a year or more. And that's quite significant when you talk about just one single test vehicle. Similarly, for a mid-sized mobility solutions manufacturer, there was a challenge to automate their fuel system testing for efficiency. Uh, so the entire testing was done in a manual manner. And once it was done, the test results were also recorded in a manual manner in an Excel sheet. And this was not very efficient because two things happened, or rather, two or three things happened. One was that, sorry, excuse me. The tester had to actually operate things and then make observations and then note it down in the Excel sheet. That's one. Secondly, due to lack of sensorization in certain areas, they were not uh, taking some other, they were not collecting some peripheral data, which would also be important in terms of analyzing the performance of the product. And thirdly, the person was also busy, inputting data in his Excel sheet to make the report, which was also prone to errors. So all of these problems were resolved when we provided a IoT-based solution, which also, did a lot of, automation of the physical testing procedure. Essentially, it means the IoT not only gathered data and helped you to make a report, but at the same time, the IoT actually actuated valves and actuated stopped motors and started motors, etc., in order to run the test properly in a very automated fashion. So as you can see, it streamlined the testing process and therefore improved customer satisfaction through first faster turnaround times and also more accurate reporting and reporting on other peripheral information or parameters which were not, you know, getting recorded earlier. So what are the key takeaways from these two examples? And the reason I want to emphasize this is because this is what should be our goal in terms of doing IoT projects. Firstly, the pilot projects actually drive success. In both companies, they had very focused pilot projects, allowing them to test the technology first and demonstrate its values before a wider implementation. And this is exactly what we discussed earlier. Then, there were measurable benefits, and those benefits I just have explained. And it also paved the way for expansion, which essentially means that, because of the success of these projects, the people who had ownership of these projects had a better chance to get managerial or stakeholder or board buy-in to expand these kind of projects to other areas as well. So I would suggest that real results and real savings and pilot projects pave the way to much bigger outcomes. Uh, and this is what our learning was also from these two case studies.
Wow, those were excellent examples. It's evident that the strategic phased approach and a strong focus on training and security can make a significant difference in overcoming digital transformation hurdles.
Right,
And,
absolutely right.
and these case studies really illustrate the tangible benefits of digital transformation.
Correct.
And And thank you so much, Dipankar, for those insights. Now, to wrap up, what would be your key takeaways for manufacturers embarking on their digital transformation journey?
Uh, some of the things are common to what I talked about in the case of the innovation podcast last week, and what we even spoke now. So let me actually summarize what we discussed. Uh, you have to start small to ensure that you win big. Focus on pilot projects to showcase the value and of the new technologies that you are trying to adopt, and then secure the buy-in for wider adoption. That's number one. Secondly, there is no other way but to bridge the skills gap. Digital transformation using all these modern technologies is is not trivial. These technologies are not trivial. You have to invest in training and development programs to equip your workforce with the necessary skills to navigate this landscape without doubt. Then you must ensure that you build with cybersecurity first in mind. You must prioritize robust cybersecurity measures to safeguard your assets, and systems. Then, another big thing that we talked about is the roadmap to success. You must develop a well structured roadmap with clear, achievable goals, defined milestones, and will with active stakeholder engagement. That's a very important factor to ensure that everybody is all aligned and committed to the transformation journey. And lastly, please embrace partnerships. Collaborate with specialist companies or educational institutions to accelerate your learning curve. It's extremely important. And get expertise and only this way you can expedite your digital transformation process. So, what I would suggest at the end is that don't wait for change. Actually, you must drive the change. Your digital future should start now.
Those were some incredible takeaways, Dipankar. Thank you so much for joining. Uh, and
Thanks,
thank
Mehak.
you
Thanks.